Welcome back to another Panthers on the Plus. It is, of course, playoff week, so we're continuing our coverage every single day leading up to Saturday's kickoff because it is the first time in a decade that the Panthers are hosting a playoff game. So much to talk about. Sheena Quick is here, and Sheena, it has been so fun. I mean, we're at pretty much every single practice, press conference, game, lockers, and we've been seeing the progression of this team. As we're getting to hear from someone who's been in the inside of this team, like, what has it been like from your perspective that you're hearing from the guys about just how excited everyone is right now?
Well, this is a very young team. I think we forget that sometimes. So it's a very chill atmosphere in the locker room because some of them haven't been through the 2-15 and the 2-5 win seasons. So, you know, namely rookie Tedero McMillan, he was like, I haven't missed the playoffs. This is my first season. So it's kind of a mixed bag. And then you have the Derek Browns and the Taylor Motons and the J.C. Horns that have literally been there in the trenches. Yeah. And they're like, you know what? We get it. It's exciting, but we don't want to just make the playoffs. We want to actually give ourselves a chance to go deep into the playoffs. We're not happy with just making it. You know, there were so many games that were kind of on the cusp this season that they wish they could get back. So, you know, they're excited for the fans, namely for the states, for North and South Carolina to have this opportunity, but they are nowhere near satisfied with just making it to the postseason.
It's interesting you talked about just how chill, I guess, the environment is, and you specifically said T-Mac. This week we've been hearing a lot of players' stories on where they were and how they kind of found out about clinching the division, whether they watched the game. And T-Mac, for example, he said he was watching a movie and he found out on social afterwards. Mike Jack was playing 2K. I was talking to Austin Corbett. He said he watched the game. So everyone kind of had a different approach. Bryce said he watched the last 2 minutes, but kind of ignored the rest of it. Yeah. Are you kind of like, what would you think the team would have done? Do you think people would have been locked in watching that game? Are you not surprised to hear that they were kind of saying, oh, it's not worth stressing over because we can't control it?
I am not shocked that Bryce did not watch that game.
Yeah.
I'm more shocked that he even watched the last 2 minutes.
Me as well.
Some of those players are like, you know what? Watching it is going to do what for me? I can't affect the outcome of this game. I know for me, just even being media, I mean, you want to be impartial, but you kind of want, you want something good to happen for these guys, especially when you're around them for so long. So I was kind of like glancing at the phone every now and again.
Oh, I was on that flight back from Tampa, and I got the TV on the plane, and I was watching.
I was like, I'm going to look in 30 minutes. Oh my God, the Saints just scored. I'm going to look in 45. Like I was definitely playing that game, but I'm not shocked. They all have different personalities.
Sure.
Mike Jack playing 2K is right up his alley. You know, he's like the pragmatic person of the bunch. He's kind of like, there ain't nothing I can do about it.
Yep.
So the result is going to be the result. Let me go ahead and like take some stress off my shoulders by playing the game. But I'm not shocked. Rob Hunt had a really interesting story about what he was doing during the game.
Sponsored by a few Michelobs, he said.
Just a couple. But I mean, it just goes to show how many personalities are in that locker room. They were just, everybody approached it in their own special way.
Yeah, Mike Jack obviously had a pretty notable game the last time against the Rams. But if we're talking about notables for this week, we have to talk about something that the Panthers officially announced on Wednesday afternoon, that Cam Newton back in the house, and you were all over that in terms of breaking that he would be returning to pound the drum pregame. Just what does it mean for the fan base, for the city, to have him back in Charlotte for this?
Well, first of all, it shows that relationship is on the mend.
Absolutely.
A lot of people felt like he was unceremoniously kind of booted when the new ownership came in, and it's no surprise when he left, the struggles came. You know, they have not been able to find their guy at quarterback until now. So I feel like there's literally no one else that could have come out and banged that drum to commemorate. You know, it's been 10 years since there was since Charlotte last hosted a playoff game, and just what it means for the fans, what it means for Bryce Young. It's almost like a passing of the torch, so to speak. It's like wrapping a bow up on one thing and moving forward into your future with the other. It's symbolic for a lot of fans. We know that Jake Delhomme took the Panthers to their first Super Bowl. That is not lost on me. Everyone loves the Raging Cajun, but when you think about the quarterback position for Carolina Panthers, you think about Cameron Jarrell Newton.
Absolutely.
The fans that he brought in, I mean, his fan base ranges from, senior citizens to my 9-year-old. He had Betty White dabbing. He put Charlotte on the map, so to speak. And I mean, and that's not to discredit the greats that came before him or after him, but there was no one else to signify that, look, the struggles are over. It's time for Panthers, for the states of North Carolina and South Carolina to see a good product on this field, a great product on this field. It's time for them to be able to have confidence when they go to these games on Sunday that their team can win versus like, let's just limp through these 18 weeks of the season. So I just think that this is kind of like the house that Ace built.
Yeah.
And him coming home, when it being 10 years, I mean, the cards just aligned. There was literally no one else that could have done it. It would have been a complete disservice to this fan base if it were anybody else.
You said that. I saw in a conversation you had with Vashti that, you're doing the fan base right. And
yeah.
I think you're totally right in that too. And I think it's gonna, not that the fans needed any more reasons to get butts in seats on Saturday, but he brings the hype that, and even just hearing his podcast weekly too, he's out there supporting the Panthers. He's, talking about them all the time about how well they're doing. And he's kind of been steadfast in that as well too, which is really cool. So it sounds like he's going to be making some appearances around Saturday. What else can you share in terms of that?
Just watch out for more details on that.
Sheena Quick on Twitter.
The 4th and goal, blessing us with the live taping of 4th and goal. I mean, I'm sorry, what am I calling it? 4th and goal. 4th and 1. Oh my God. He'll be blessing us with the live taping of that. So that should be really exciting. Again, just giving back to the fans. That's kind of what Cam Newton did off the field. He brought a lot to the fan base as far as just being involved in the community. I think it's huge for him to be able to give them that opportunity to watch that taping.
So cool. And of course, the game itself, well worth getting butts in seats as well too. This is, of course, the second time that we're going to be seeing the Rams coming here to the bank. And the first time went pretty well. The guys have all said, this is not the same. We can't expect the same sort of results. No. It's a totally different game. It's basically a different season at this point. Everyone's 0-0 to start this playoffs, and the guys in the locker room seem like they're really dialing into that mentality. What have you seen in terms of the mentality that they're coming into, facing a team that, they are technically an underdog, and the point spreads are definitely not in their favor for?
Well, aside from the Jets game, they've been underdogs in all of their wins.
Yep.
No one was giving this team a chance a couple of weeks ago when the Rams came to town. They were without Trayvon Merrick. They were without interior linebackers. They were without J.C. Horn.
Sure were.
And you're facing Matt Stafford coming in on a heater. So I think that for them, everyone is, like you said, everyone is 0-0. They have as much a chance as anybody. They turned Matt Stafford over 3 times. Anything can happen.
They can, and we saw Nick Scott, we saw Mike Jack, like we mentioned before too. Yeah, very, very exciting. I want to get more into kind of the secondary too, because there's a lot we can talk about there, especially with JC being inserted back in for this time around. Right. But we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. All right, just a couple months ago, the Rams came to Carolina, heavy favorites, and it was one of probably the statement wins of the season, if not the statement win. It was so exciting, and they did it without some pretty key playmakers. No Trayvon Merrick, no J.C. Horn. We've heard a lot about how the teams who the Panthers are playing love to try to take the ball away from J.C. Horn's direction and kind of put it onto Mike Jack's receiver that he's going to be working on, and he doesn't seem to have any problems with that. What kind of have you seen from what they're able to do with these corners? And yes, there's this pro bowler on one side of the ball, but you also have someone who is having an insane season just over to the other side.
Mike Jack, just like this whole Panthers team, has been severely underrated. I've always felt like he's the best CB2 in the entire National Football League. CB1 for some teams. And he likes playing with that chip on his shoulder. He likes that people are underestimating him. He's like, okay, try me. He welcomes that. I mean, he welcomes his struggles. He didn't have the greatest game against the Cowboys. He stood in there in that locker room. He didn't shy away from it. He's like, look, I got to be better. I have J.C. Horn on the other side. He believes in me. Their relationship off the field has been, to me, paramount in both of their development this season. J.C. and staying healthy, and Mike Jack and just being able to be a shutdown corner on the other side of that field. You can't just throw your number one on the other side of the field anymore because that ball might get taken away. You know, we saw Baker Mayfield go at him in that first game. Okay, he got Mike Evans is going to get his touchdown. He's Mike Evans, but Mike Jack pretty much shut him down the rest of that game. He's not shying away from these challenges, and they'll have another one ahead of them on Saturday. So it's exciting to see, especially just the way that he came to Carolina.
Yeah.
Shout out to Dan Morgan because Seattle did trade him away for a bag of chips.
Stale one at that, like you
Stale
said.
bag of chips. That guy is not playing anymore. I don't even know if he played a snap in the NFL.
Crazy.
So you got him on a bargain, but you got a player with a chip on his shoulder, and he used that chip to fuel himself and just literally elevate his game every time he stepped on the field this season.
Yeah, the two of them, it's so fun watching them and their competitions that they always have in practice. It seems like their rapport is amazing. And also working with Jonathan Cooley in the defensive pass game, who he seems like he's going to be getting some looks as well for some defensive coordinator vacancies too. But
it makes me nervous, man.
He's a rising star, it seems like, as a coach. So nothing obviously finalized there, but he's definitely been a really good asset for them. Matthew Stafford is in the MVP conversation for a reason.
As he should be.
As he should be.
Yeah.
He is doing exceptionally well with a good offense. He has a lot of good targets that he's working with in LA right now. And, it's pretty much feeling like it's between him and Drake May is what we're hearing for who's going to be MVP. What about Matthew Stafford in his season that he's having, do you think has been making him such a threat?
He's efficient. He takes care of the ball. That's why that Carolina game was such an anomaly. And that's why you hear the guys like, hey, we can't talk, that game was that game. This is something different. They knew that game was uncharacteristic of Matt Stafford. Not to take away from the defense, but Matt Stafford, he holds on to the ball. Coming into that game, he had an NFL record, most touchdown passes without an interception. He does not turn it over. He delivers the ball where it's supposed to go. He extends plays. And as a quarterback, every time he steps on the field, he's a threat. He's a threat for 6.
Right.
And so I think that, just like you said, the season that Drake May is having, and Matt Stafford's been doing this at a high level for a long time.
For sure.
That's gold jacket for sure. And that's, Mike Jack said, hey, pick 6, when he's giving his Hall of Fame speech, I'm going to be thinking about that because he does not turn the ball over, and it doesn't equate to points going in the other direction for the other team. So he's just been efficient. He's efficient. He is consistent, and he's not going to go down easy.
Right. And like we were saying, I think he had a funny quote this week earlier about, he's like, I just have to basically not throw the ball to them.
To the other team. Yeah, that always works.
But even teams like the Rams or teams like anyone else they're playing are noting that the secondary of the Panthers is a threat. So is that probably one of their biggest threats? We were talking just a minute ago about third down defense, though. I want to point that out because a lot of times on third down, that's when you're going to try to throw the ball, and their efficiency isn't great. So what do you see as that being maybe an area that they're going to need to kind of lock in on this weekend?
They have to get off the field. Like we mentioned earlier, they turned Matthew Stafford over 3 times.
Yeah.
But if you look at the possessions of that game, the Rams only punted once. So what looks like a dominant defense in that game, when you take those 3 turnovers away, which were huge, I'm not taking that away, they were not able to stop the Rams. The Rams punted 1 time. If you're not taking the ball away if they didn't take the ball away from the Rams, those would have been scores, whether it was touchdowns or field goals. They moved the ball on that defense. And like you said, third down has been an Achilles heel. They are ranked next to last in the league. They force a lot of teams into 3rd and long, but if you're on 3rd and 7, it pains me to see them lined up 10 yards off the receiver. So it's almost like that zone lulls teams into tossing an interception. A window you might think is open is not. Here comes J.C. Horn. Right. Here comes Mike Jack. Here comes Nick Scott. Here comes Lathan Ransom. Here comes Trayvon Merrick. So very, very, very talented secondary that to me has outperformed the scheme at times. Where they're, I don't know if they're getting these turnovers just off pure instinct. I don't think that the scheme does them any favors, so to speak. So just to be able to see Evero call a more aggressive game, because you have playmakers that can make it happen. You don't have to sit in this zone because there's no speed or there's no coverage. You have that. So he's going to have to be aggressive. It cannot be soft zone, or Puka is going to have a day. Davante is going to have a day. Matt Stafford is going to show you guys why he's an MVP candidate. If they want to be playing next week they have to tighten. If you must play zone, they're going to have to tighten up that coverage, and they're definitely going to have to get off the field on third down.
Sticking with the defense, though, before we move on a little bit, this team is also getting healthier right now. We're seeing a lot of guys maybe that have been out for some extended time getting closer to the field. Turk Wharton is someone I kind of wanted to highlight, too. I think he last played in that Week 13 game against the Rams. So he seems to be full go as well. He and Derek Brown, like what they can do. We obviously saw that game-sealing strip sack that Derek had against the Rams last time and how, you know, electric that made the bank. But what can just the rest of the defense as a whole just do to affect that offense as well?
Nick Gordon is having an amazing rookie season.
Yeah, let's not forget him.
Everywhere. He's almost in on every tackle at or around that line of scrimmage. He is a dog, so to speak. Yeah. And Bobby Brown has played very well in Wharton's absence. I think that's of note. So they just have to be stout up front. DJ Wanham was the one that scooped that, recovered the fumble, the strip sack to kind of seal the game last time. But, you know, they're stout up front. All they have to do is, you know, maintain their gap integrity, get after it, make Stafford uncomfortable, make him panic, make him throw the ball away. Yeah. Because if you're giving him time in that pocket to sit back, he's going to pick you apart all day long.
Shout out to Nick Gordon, though, because he has to be like the most mature, kind 20-year-old, too. And also delivering every day on the field.
For sure, yeah.
What a pickup that they got in the second round.
They knocked this draft out of the park, and that's why, you know, Dan Morgan said, give me 3 years. 2 years in, you're in the postseason. You're 2 years removed from a 2-15 season that very well could have and probably should have been 0-17. So there's a lot to be said in that front office and how they've been able to evaluate talent either through the draft or through free agency to even get the Panthers to where they are. So a lot of people are saying this team is 8-9. They don't deserve to be here. If there's any fan base and there's any team in the NFL that deserves to be in the postseason, it's the Carolina Panthers, because they have been through a soap opera of football history in these last couple of years.
No, good things definitely coming. And I know Dave has been asked about this in terms of thinking, is this team ahead of schedule? Like you were saying, maybe that 3-year type of plan, but to be able to be doing this in the postseason in year 2 under them, it's pretty good. It's showing that there's forward progress. It's that people are buying in from the front office to the players, and everything seems to be clicking maybe quicker than they expected. But they're saying, no, we didn't have a timeline. You know, they say that to us sort of thing. But I think they would all feel pretty impressed with themselves to be here too, right?
I think they are. I always said that this team was an 8-9 win team this season, and people looked at me like I was crazy. But I was looking at last year and how they finished that back half of the season. They were an Xavier Legette fingertip away from beating the Eagles.
Sure.
They were a walk-off field goal away from beating the Kansas City Chiefs, who both were playing in the Super Bowl. So they won, 6 games last season. They very well should have been an 8-9 win team last season. But like you said, it just shows that they're going in the right direction, and there's synergy and there's alignment, and that was kind of what has been missing these last couple of years. They were firing the GM, firing a head coach, hiring a GM, hiring a head coach. So now I think that what helped it tremendously was hiring the GM and the head coach in the same coaching cycle. Sure. So they're on the same page and what they want for this team and how that looks. They have a plan, they're sticking to it, and everything just seems to be aligned right now.
Yeah, continuity is huge. Yeah. Teams only develop when there is continuity. I
for sure
personally stand by that if you want things to work, you have to at least give it a chance
for sure
to grow rather than scrapping it right away. I know the Panthers have done that quite a few times over the last few years where they've, maybe not given a full chance, but it seems like as of right now, things have landed in a good spot.
Yeah.
And they're continuing to develop. Bryce Young, obviously being a big part of that as well, too. He's in his 3rd season, and he's had largely a positive season. He's had a few ups and downs, as every player does.
Yeah.
But would you agree that this is a step forward for him in his progression as a QB1?
I do. I think that, Bryce had a very unique situation that I think it would have been difficult for any quarterback to step into.
Yeah.
So I don't even consider this to be his 3rd year. I really consider it to be his 2nd, if we're being honest. Benched early, came back, he was put in a position that he probably was unfamiliar with last year. Bryce Young has always been the guy. And, he gets a lot of criticism over his size, his physique. He's been the most durable quarterback in his class. He's missed the least amount of games due to injury in his entire class. And Bryce Young was that height and that weight when he won the Heisman. He didn't win the Heisman playing, in some obscure conference. He won the Heisman playing at Alabama.
For sure.
Against SEC talent, which some would argue is most mimics the NFL. He wasn't playing against scrubs. He was playing against the creme de la creme, and he came out on top. So I think that Bryce Young has been a proven winner at every level, and he's going to continue to take that step forward in the NFL as they continue to improve his protection, his weapons, the run game, the defense. As this team continues to come together and actually be able to play complementary football, we will continue to see Bryce Young turn the page. I don't think he's behind by any means in his third season. I think that he's making really, really good progress, and he's your franchise quarterback.
Yeah. Bryce has quite a few targets that he is also liking, and once again, he showed that clutch gene in that Rams game the last time they played. We're going to touch on that when we return. All right, Sheena, give me a quick fact check. Is it 12 game-winning drives that Bryce has now led in his career?
Yes.
Yes. I mean, that is insane. Quite a few of them have been this year, too. And they've all been exciting. I think they've all made our blood pressure a little bit higher than we would have liked. Cardiac cats, once again. But that Rams game, getting that first down, getting Jalen Coker, the last time they played each other, setting up the game winner. What does Bryce do in these moments, and where does he seem to thrive when, his back is against the wall, when there's less than 2 minutes on the clock, and when they just need to convert to get into a field goal range, to get a touchdown, or whatever it is to get a win?
I call him Ice Bryce in those situations. Like, he's not Bryce Young, he's Ice Young in those situations.
Yeah.
But when you talk to the guys, they're like, I mean, he wasn't fiery in the huddle. He was just calm, cool, collected. He expects to be there. He trusts that he has what it takes to get what needs to be done. And you see that Coach Canales is trusting in him in those moments. Also, key fourth down conversions where he's put the ball in his hands, like, hey, go win the game for us. And he's went and won the game for them. I just think that he has confidence. And I mean, that's what you have to have in those moments. He doesn't get rattled. He doesn't get nervous. And, T-Mac was like, when you got somebody like that that's leading the huddle, like, why would we be worried? Why, and it kind of they feed off of him in that huddle in those moments. And I think that's what's kind of shaping this team.
Yeah.
They're going to get into the position where they're not having to go down and win on a game-winning drive. They're going to be in a position where they're actually playing from ahead. But having someone like that that's very steadfast and cool, calm, and collected, it rubs off on everybody else. They're like, yo, you know what? You're right. Why are we nervous? Let's go win this game. And that's what we've been seeing.
Bryce's mindset, mentality, just from an outside, obviously I can't
he's literally
imagine what he's thinking, but just like how much he values also just like mental health in terms of, keeping cool, knowing his techniques for his own self and how to manage. I think it's true that probably does rub off. Of course, you can't tell a guy, oh, be cool. Like, you can only do that so much. Do it. But as a leader, we were just saying, it's got to be contagious.
And like you touched on it with mental health, Bryce's dad is heavy in the mental health, in the mental health industry. His parents are very grounded. Like, again, he's been that guy at every single level. And I think that just having that at home and having that instilled into his life at a very young age, I think that's just continued to increase as he's matured. Because he's been through a lot. Just here in Carolina, adversity he's probably never faced at any other time. But I think that background is what was able to keep him grounded. He's very rooted in his faith.
Yep.
That's also something that's just kept him grounded. And I think that all of those things come into play at those moments. Like Bryce Young, those moments, he's been prepared for those moments for the past 20 plus years of his life. And I think that's why we see him so calm in those situations.
We mentioned T-Mac. Gotta ask, do you think he should be or will be the offensive rookie of the year? I don't see how you give it to anyone else. Only receiver in that class to eclipse 1,000 yards. Yep. And they got a wide receiver one in Carolina. Yeah. I mean,
even Steve Smith changed his tune on T-Mac. I mean, that's the legend. People go by his word. They go by his opinion. And he's given them the stamp of approval.
He is reliable. Jalen Coker stepping up in the big moments of late, too. Yeah. He's awesome. He's huge. He's got his hands ready to go whenever, too.
Jalen Coker does not drop anything.
No.
Ever.
He's so fun to watch, and especially those big plays. We saw that play, first of all, we were just talking about in the Rams, but again, that touchdown we saw in Tampa this weekend, too. Jalen's awesome. Sheena, I have to just ask before we wrap this up, Saturday at the bank, what do you just envision this is going to look like in terms of the fans, just the atmosphere? Can you you've been here for so long and know how much the city and this fan base has been wanting this. What's the picture going to look like?
This has been 10 years in the making. When I'm not going to call him QB1 anymore, that's Bryce Young, but when they yell on that loudspeaker, and you're number one, Cam Newton, and he runs out of that tunnel and bangs the drum, I feel like the place is going to explode.
Yeah.
I don't think the moment will be too big for these players, though, because there's only a couple players on the team that have been around for the Cam Newton effect when it was at its height. Mm-hmm. So I don't think that it's going to affect them, but I think that it's going to affect the fans. The fans are going to affect them. For the first time in years, they were able to get false start flags. Like, I mean, the city is showing up. They're showing up. They're showing out. I expect to see that on Saturday. Everybody is excited. North Carolina, South Carolina, they've earned this. They deserve this. They've been through the ringer. So I expect high intensity, electric, and the players are just going to have to. They're going to have to execute.
It's going to be so fun. Hopefully, like you said, they execute, they deliver. But yeah, the fans, it sounds like, are going to be showing up, no doubt. And like we've said and we've seen, they've affected the game, and the players know it. They've talked about it. Dave's talked about it. And Saturday should be no different. Sheena, you're going to be all over it on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, Instagram, all of that. We're going to have all the coverage, of course, right here on WCNC as well. So thanks for watching.